Hey guys, welcome to episode 7 of Understanding with John T. Today I want to talk about conspiracy thinking. We're very familiar with conspiracy theories and the ability of conspiracy theories to create all sorts of issues and problems within families, at Thanksgiving dinner, within politics, within society, broadly speaking. But conspiracy thinking is something I've realized it's not limited to politics. It's not limited to kind of this public life. It actually affects our personal lives. It can affect our professional lives. And it goes far beyond conspiracy theories. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. My father was born and raised in Syria, and the wars with Israel and how their lives were so dramatically affected by them really created the perfect environment for conspiracy thinking and conspiracy theories. And so I know listening to him and many members of the family and family friends, uh, conspiracy theories abounded, but they always bothered me. I didn't fully understand it when I was young. Um, I think back then it just bothered me that you would treat something that you didn't know was true, like with any certainty, even though you really didn't know there was any factual basis to it, right? It was just guessing. It was an educated guess. As I got older, I realized there was another element to this. There was another side. There was something very insidious, very destructive. Conspiracy theories blame others for our problems. And that's not to say others don't contribute to issues we have in our lives, right? But a conspiracy theory places the majority, if not all of the blame on somebody else. And it waits for them to fix our problem. And that insidious kind of thinking was what I eventually realized like bothered me so much about it. It's giving up of our autonomy, the giving up of our agency. And it transforms an intelligent, empowered human being into a powerless beggar waiting for somebody else to fix their problems, the issues in their life, trying to remove all responsibility from them. I never could imagine doing that. Why would a person do this? It bothered me. It's like to this day, it still bothers me. But there is a simple and elegant answer to why we do this to ourselves. It hurts less than trying and failing. It hurts less than admitting that we are the ones holding ourselves back. It hurts less than the hard work it takes to change our lives for the better. Many of us may not believe in conspiracy theories. We may not share conspiracy theories. We may actually get very upset with conspiracy theories and those who spread them. But we do something very insidious within our personal and professional lives. We embrace this kind of thinking. We embrace conspiracy thinking. And to illustrate this, I want to share a story that my parents, an experience my parents had. They were speaking to somebody back in upstate New York, someone that they worked with in the past. And they asked her, why don't you apply for this job? We heard there's an opening here. We think you'd be great for that. And her response was, do you think they're going to hire a redneck like me for a job like that? And it was interesting. My parents were taken aback. It's like my father's an immigrant. He has an accent. We're Muslim. It's like, you're in a much better situation than me, right? My father's thinking, right? But what it illustrated is that she undermined herself. She gave up even before she tried. She decided to blame the system, society, somebody else for her not being able to advance in life. And it's for the same reasons people spread conspiracy theories. It was easier than taking personal responsibility, than, doing all the hard work it would take to change her life. It's easier than trying and failing. So This is a defense mechanism that human beings use, and it's really important to be aware of it. Failure hurts. Failure really hurts. And, sometimes it's easier to blame somebody else for our our life, where it's ended up. And it's also important to ask ourselves, is there a better way? And to illustrate this part, I really want to share a personal story. So, as many of you have maybe heard in previous episodes, I studied medicine. I even got into residency and was feeling very discouraged by that whole experience, and I left. And after we left, I did a little bit of clinical research, and then my wife and I started our own businesses. One was an art e-commerce site, and another was a design studio. And to gain clients for the design studio, we would go to these networking events in Southern California. And it wasn't easy for us, right? My wife is a bit of an introvert. I go a little bit one way or the other, but it was a very uncomfortable situation. Meeting with strangers, it was difficult, right? But even when we did kind of muster the courage to go to these events, even we mustered the courage to talk to people and be friendly and open, there was always this resistance we encountered. There was this, either people would avoid eye contact, not wanting to talk to us. And this is a networking event, right? I mean, you're supposed to want to meet other people and potentially sell to them. And um, so it was a very weird experience, something I'd never experienced before. Even when we did manage to get into a conversation with somebody, they would quickly try to wrap it up and step away. And like I said, this is something I'd never experienced. And we did this multiple times, multiple different cities. And the only conclusion we could come to was that we were making them feel uncomfortable. This is maybe a decade after 9/11, but, my wife is Chinese. She wears a headscarf. The only thing we can think of is like, you know, maybe us being Muslim made them feel uncomfortable. They didn't know how to deal with it. And so they tried to avoid the situation. And, at that point, it would have been very easy for us to say, see, society doesn't want us to succeed. Everybody's against us, to really fall into a sense of despair, to kind of fall into conspiracy thinking. And I can't say we didn't feel the pain, feel the sting, but at the same time, I could have easily, just gone by myself. I blend in pretty well, and nobody's going to be able to see that I'm Muslim. But I've never been one to hide who I am, and to kind of find clients and then they discover we're Muslim and then they don't want to work with us anyway. It didn't seem to be a very sustainable idea, right? So, like I said, we felt the sting, and I can't say we didn't indulge those thoughts a little bit, and like feeling like the world was against us. But, thankfully, there was something in us that was like, don't give up. There's got to be a way. And so we kept looking. We looked for opportunities, like who does want to work with us? Who do we want to work with? And as members of the Muslim community, we did feel like we wanted to help raise the bar within our own community, within, this segment of the population in the US, abroad, everywhere. And so we looked for opportunities there. And we discovered that Muslims were starting to organize. They were holding conferences and really trying to bolster this idea of an Islamic economy, a group of people spread throughout the world, but who have these common beliefs, values, history, etc. And, in attending these events in the US and Dubai and Indonesia, around the world, we found a group of people, like-minded people who we wanted to work with, who wanted to work with us. And it was such a blessing. So I think the takeaway here is we all face challenges. And it is very easy to fall into this thinking that blames the world for our problems, that and even if it's true, and like what we faced was a reality, it wasn't a lie, but that thought would have kept us from growing, from achieving a goal, from improving the life of our lives and the lives of our family members. So if you ever find yourself in this kind of situation, look, I understand, I've been there, but those thoughts are lies. Those thoughts are there to protect us, but at the same time, they undermine us. Okay. And so the question that we need to ask ourselves, instead of like blaming who's at fault, is what can I do? Where's that group, that workplace, that opportunity? It could be even starting your own business, right? Where is that opportunity where I can be myself, where I can find a livelihood, find some fulfillment, whatever it is you're looking for? It's out there. It may require some patience. It may require you getting a job, or, it may require you to start your own business, but the opportunities are out there. But they only present themselves after we ask the right question, which is, what can I do? How can I improve the situation of my life, my family? And this isn't limited to just racial, ethnic bias, even religious bias. This sometimes the opportunities that we grew up with, that we were expecting to be available, they're just no longer available. Just I look at, like, in upstate New York where I grew up, a lot of people were there. They were expecting, manufacturing jobs to still be around, and now they're not. Some people have taken service jobs, other people have moved away, moved to nearby towns, but others maybe have just given up. And that's a real shame. It's a real shame to give up. It's scary. It is scary, to try something new, to go somewhere new, to train for something new. But I think the fear is far better than the pain of living your life not not realizing your dreams, not realizing even a better life. Because I can't guarantee you success, but if you listen to that fear, if you listen to that voice that blames the world around you, I can guarantee you will fail. And for me, I don't want to wish for that for anybody. I firmly believe that we all have the power within ourselves to lift ourselves up. I do believe society needs to help us. I do believe, that's another aspect of this. But whether society can do anything to help you or not, we always have it within ourselves. And yes, it may require us to be uncomfortable. It may require us to give up one dream in exchange for another. But often you'll find that there's a lot of good. Maybe even what you were thinking of wasn't actually as good as what you ended up with. So I highly encourage everybody, just go out there and please, believe in yourselves, because I do. Wish you the best. Thank you for listening, and share your stories.